the title has been read by you, so I will just skip to the table of contents. There are four main points that I will talk about in 10 minutes: introduction and the problem and challenges, and also the principal paradigm, pedagogy for teaching sexual orientation in CE, and then progressive CE on the diversity of sexual orientation as faith development process. So I start with the introduction that 5 years ago in 2016, the Communion of Churches in Indonesia released a pastoral statement to all CCI church members. And the statement has 14 points outlining CCI's position on LGBT issues in society. The purpose of this statement letter is to serve as a theological consideration for member churches regarding LGBT issues, and to invite churches to conduct a more comprehensive examination of LGBT issues, specifically by incorporating non-theological scientific disciplines in understanding human sexual orientation. But at the end of the process of this pastoral letter, most of CCI members, together with evangelical churches, rejected the statement with the argument that the Bible opposes non-heterosexual orientation. So, from that situation, the church's rejection exemplifies, I said, a conventional traditional theological approach to the subject of human sexuality rooted in Western theological tradition back to 17th and 18th centuries that only accept heteronormative sexuality. And thus, complicated human sexuality is understood primarily via the interpretation of biblical texts about the sexual activity of a particular set of individuals in a particular environment, circumstance, and period. And faith, wrapped in traditional views, cannot consider the diversity of human sexual orientations. So, as a result of this approach, all individuals with non-heteronormative orientation are seen as sinners. The societal effect of this approach is that people prefer to ignore violence perpetrated against non-heteronormative individuals, or if they have an opinion about the violence, they will blame the sexual orientation of non-heteronormative individuals. And in addition, individuals are said to lack of spirituality since their non-heteronormative sexual orientation result from choice or nurture. This is part of the social constructionism idea. Therefore, churches need a Christian education curriculum that offers the most up-to-date facts on the various human sexual orientation and proper theological reflection on whose these individuals are in God's eyes. This action is an educational endeavor to make Indonesian Christians recognize of the variety of human sexual orientations, that the Bible does not deny the diversity of human sexual orientation, and that non-heteronormative persons have the same spirituality as heteronormative people. So the content of progressive education will serve to conscientize Indonesian Christians to be more critical in recognizing the diversity of sexual orientation and affirming sexual diversity among the congregation. Okay, currently, there is no Christian education curriculum in Indonesia addresses the variety of human sexual orientation, or even though some churches in Indonesia that advocate for the inclusion of sexual education materials in the Christian education curriculum, the heteronormative perspective sets the standard for curriculum content. So it means non-heteronormative sexual orientation will not be included in the content, or if it is mentioned, it will be placed in an inappropriate position that must be avoided. So to comprehend the understanding of Indonesian Christian on the variety of human sexual orientation, a curriculum of progressive CE that is not anti-non-heteronormative sexuality is required. So I would like to use the principal paradigm pedagogy for teaching sexual orientation in CE in Indonesia. So the practical theological paradigm that underlies the idea of progressive Christian education I use here is the hermeneutical praxis paradigm as developed by Hyun Suk Kim, a Christian education professor in Yonsei University, where I'm here now. And this paradigm understands our particular reality and discerns God's will, beginning with the praxis of the present moments and progressing beyond congregation, churches, and denomination to the non-ecclesial setting or the society. So considering the paradigm, I urge Christian education in Indonesia to reconsider the theological practice and church teaching about human sexuality. I put it into a kind of process or step to create the curriculum. So here I put together a line with the concept of conscientization pedagogy of Freire. The first step is re-examine conventional theological concept of human sexuality or re-examine biblical hermeneutics of texts often used to support anti-non-heteronormative sexuality. Because there is no doubt that the Bible has been used to hurt non-heteronormative people, or not only in the society, but also inside the churches from the pulpit. And then examining hermeneutical biblical text that seems to appreciate sexual diversity. I will not talk a lot about this text, but I mean, we often forgot, or we forgot that there are texts that are open to sexual diversity in the Bible. So this paradigm This paradigm are likewise consistent with the critical liberating principle of Freire's conscientization pedagogy, as I put on the right side, anti-banking concept of education through evaluating traditional theology of sexuality or biblical hermeneutics on sexuality, and examining hermeneutical biblical texts that seem to appreciate sexual diversity. Next, recognizing the actual theological social impact of conventional theology and listening to the experience of non-heteronormative people, their social life, religiosity, their dreams, their hopes, their relationships and loves. For example, we practice this step at Jakarta Theological Seminary by holding an LGBTIQ support group that is a space for sharing between LGBTIQ people in the seminary and the parents of LGBTIQ people from outside of the seminary. And this is not only for Christians, but for other religious people, non-Christian as well. So we are the first seminary who are open to this situation. Aligned with Freire's conscientization pedagogy, I wrote there, problem-posing concept of education by studying the effect or impact of traditional theology on understanding, perspective, and attitude toward non-heteronormative people, and listening to the non-heteronormative life experience. And next, I write there, observing and appreciating the diverse of sexual orientation as shown by non-theological disciplines, and then invite the church or the congregation to discerning God's will in the present circumstance. The line with Freire's conscientization pedagogy is develop alternative theology or interpretation of biblical texts regarding sexual orientation through mutual dialogue between theology and non-theological discipline. And after that, reorganizing the curriculum of Christian education to reflect the affirmation of human sexual orientation. Now I'm talking about how we see this progressive Christian education on the diversity of sexual orientation as faith development process. So I utilized the James Fowler's theory of faith development. So I will skip the stage 0 to 2 because the main participant for my idea is adult Christians. So I will immediately jump to development faith process when the diversity of human sexual orientation becomes the content of Christian education. Start in stage 3, synthetic conventional faith. So at this stage, a person's faith is influenced by a religious institution, shared belief system, or authority. So member of congregation that rejects CCI's pastoral statement on the variety of human sexuality characterize this stage. Conflicts that arise when an individual's beliefs are questioned are often ignored because they threaten an individual's faith-based identity. And then in the stage 4, individuative reflective. At this stage, a person's faith is marked by anxiety and struggle when wants to take responsibility for his, her, or their faith and feelings. So people are questioning their own assumption around the faith tradition, questioning the authority structure of their faith. So the CE proposal I offer here presupposes that people will be in or experience a process of faith development at this stage, if they want to talk about these issues in their church. And then to the stage 5, conjunctive faith. At this stage, one aware the paradoxes and mysteries associated with transcendent ideals. This stage is when the struggles and questioning of stage 4, some answers have been found, and the person at this stage is comfortable knowing that all the answers might not be easily found. So at this stage, the strong need for individual self-reflection gives way to a sense of the importance of community in faith development. So people at this stage are also much more open to others' people's faith perspective, capable of comparing scientific discoveries on human sexuality and theology. And the last stage, universalizing faith. People at this stage considers all creatures deserving compassion and profound understanding, recognize the connection of love, faith, and commitment among the non-heteronormative people as an expression and celebration of life, spirituality as exists among heteronormative people. So through this brief explanation, I would like to say that therefore the diversity of human sexual orientation, which is understood in a new perspective via progressive theological approach and interpretation, and becomes the content of CE, supports the personal and communal faith development.
It's wonderful to listen to such a great presentation. Erich, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation, the passionate and challenging presentation that you have presented. The inclusivity of the LGBT in the life of the church has continued to be a challenge indeed, as you have rightly presented in your paper. And what I have picked up from your presentation, the number one is you are simply acknowledging or accounting the challenge that the inclusivity of people of different sexual orientation and diversity have continued facing in the church circles. And specifically, you've mentioned the Indonesia. And the naming the challenge, I believe, is always the beginning of addressing it. Whatever we don't name, it cannot be addressed. So by naming that it is a challenge, and the church has battled through to try and ignore and deny, but again, continuously, we see that time and again, there are so many other prophetic voices that are coming in to try and address it. And your presentation is perhaps that voice, that additional voice that keeps on coming and say perhaps the church could be able to.
Oh, James, we have lost your voice. If you can try to unmute once again.
Okay.
Great,
I don't know whether I should continue.
Yes, go ahead. Thank you. We can hear you now.
Okay. So thank you so much, Erich. I was simply saying this is a passionate and challenging presentation. And what I have picked up is that there is an acknowledgement that there has been a continuous challenge of the church denying or trying to engage issues of sexual orientation and diversity. And your presentation is that voice that tries to revive, reignite, or re-engage the church in the way that we view people of sexual diversities. But on the other hand, what I have also picked up in your presentation is that you are pointing to, you are identifying Christian education as a tool that can play a role in terms of engaging the issues of inclusivity. And without any doubt, anything that is presented in form of education has the ability to transform the mindset, to transform the views. And I think this is the right tool, given the other details, approaches that you have presented. It could be the right tool for the church to use to begin to readdress in the theological institutions, readdress and rethink the issues of sexual inclusivity. And I want to, you have talked about the hermeneutical praxis paradigm and the conscientization pedagogy, which you have also mentioned that perhaps the church could begin to look through into the same Bible that we have, which has been used as a liberative text, but also as oppressive in nature. So you are challenging the church to say, let's go back and begin to explore the texts that could be life-giving, the text that could address the issues of sexual orientation in the ways maybe that we have not perceived. So I think that is very important. That is very important in your presentation. Hermeneutical approach is simply re-engaging the text with the life-giving mindset, with the accountability. So when I look at the hermeneutical suggestion that you are bringing, the conscientization, it is simply saying, perhaps let us go to the Bible with these particular tools, with this particular mindset, without perhaps judging, but begin to look at the Bible with these tools through the Christian education. And I want to come to the Zambian context. The Zambian context, it is a challenge in terms of dealing with issues of people of other sexual orientation. The first challenge is at the national level, before we can talk of even as a church. Zambia being a Christian nation, which was declared by the second Republican president, Titus Chiluba. The Zambia is a Christian nation, has for a long time, through the constitution, been tailored in a way that it does not give that safe space to people of different sexual orientation. And there has been a lot of divisions along the societies in terms of how they should be perceived and viewed. But that does not mean that the church on the ground has not been battling. We have several churches in Zambia and affiliated to different mother bodies. And each individual church has been engaging the issues of people of sexual orientation. I come from the Uniting Presbyterian Church in Southern Africa. And each General Assembly that we have, these are the issues that we're battling with on the inclusivity of people of different sexual orientation. So when I look at your presentation and what you are bringing, for me, it gives an opportunity for the church to re-engage, re-look through the issues of sexual orientation, the issues of the non-heterosexual. So it is an enlightening presentation. It is a paper that is calling us to re-engage. But also what I find interesting, which you mentioned in your presentation, is the aspect of listening from the people of different sexual orientation. So, and that, I think the voice, the denial of the voice itself does not lead to beginning to see what is it, what are their different views, what are their perceptions, and together with re-engaging the Bible, I think progress can be made. So the safe spaces, the engaging spaces between those of other sexual orientation and the church, I think that one can be another step that can lead to progress. So thank you so much, Eric. I'm not a good person who engages the presentation as it is given, but I find your presentation very challenging and you present it with passion, and I think it is leading somewhere. Thank you so much.